Yeah. 1 2 1 2. You know how we do with your boy BQ with your Impact Lounge Hard to Kill preview and prediction show. Sorry this didn't start exactly on time. The timer went off and I forgot to hit record, so I started talking to nobody for a little while. So my bad on that. But this is your Hard to Kill preview and prediction show. I'm gonna try to run through it kind of quickly because the shelf life on this video is not very long, considering the pay-per-view is tonight. So first things first, if you have not subscribed to this channel, smash that subscribe button. Would appreciate it very, very much. So let's talk Hard to Kill here. I truly think this is the best card they put together for pay-per-view in a while. I am really looking forward to this one. Hard to Kill traditionally, I know it's only like 3 or 4 years old, but traditionally it's been my favorite pay-per-view. They seem to kick off every year very, very strong. They come out guns a-blazing. So it's definitely my favorite one, followed by Slammiversary, then Bound for Glory, then Rebellion. So I'm looking forward to Hard to Kill. Even when they did it with front and no fans, I thought it was just an outstanding pay-per-view. I'm not going to be reviewing the episode of Impact because it's so close to the pay-per-view happening. And I've said many, many a times, my least favorite episodes every year are the go-home shows. Well, really, my least favorite is the best ofs, but I don't watch those. So for the actual shows that I watch, I traditionally don't enjoy the go-home shows. This one was okay, though. It was okay, but there's just something about it. Like, that is not their bread and butter, the go-home show to a pay-per-view. If you have not, first things first, though. Well, first things first is subscribe. Second thing, if you haven't gone to their Instagram, and it might have been on this, I know they did a preview on their YouTube channel before the bell. It might have been on that as well, but I know on Instagram they have this about a 4-minute long hype video for Hard to Kill, and it's excellent. They really went all out. When it looks great, it just features so much of the roster, and as they're showing each member of the roster, the guys, the girls, you're just like, shit, this is a good roster. Like sometimes you don't see it, you don't realize how good it is until you just see all the wrestlers in a row, and you're just like, man, they really have put together a good group here. That doesn't change how I feel about the production quality and all that, but when you're talking about the roster, and I've said this many times about the knockouts too, but the roster is just the best it's been in a really long time. They've got a lot of talent on there, a lot of people that we care about. They've really weeded out some of the bad comedy and things like that. And Hard to Kill was cool because like they have a mission. There's a clear like mission statement within the company when it comes to Hard to Kill. They have there's a backstory to it, and I think it resonated from originated. I mean, from Chris Jericho. I think he was maybe interviewing Don Callis or something on the podcast, and they're saying Impact's Hard to Kill. It's never going away, and the hype video was basically centered around that general thesis. So it's really good, and the pay-per-view just has like a brand to it. It has a feel. It has a direction. They do a lot of gimmick matches for it, but it kind of fits the theme of the show. Like you got to do some of these gimmick matches because your opponent won't go away. So I'm just looking forward to it. It's going to be a really good show tonight. I'm going to get into my predictions here, and I'm going to start from, for the most part, the most important match down. For the most part, I guess it's all subjective, but we're going to talk the main event first because that's the big, one of the two big drawing things for this episode. And what I've been saying the last several weeks, and of course the main event is Josh Alexander defending against Bully Ray. This is a Full Metal Mayhem match. I hate, what do you call, hardcore matches, all this shit, but something about the Full Metal Mayhem I enjoy. I've been saying the last several weeks, I forgot what I was going to say for a second, that they really proved me wrong with this Bully Ray thing. The story has been really, really good. It's some of it's been predictable, some of it hasn't, but we've just lacked such a strong heel at the top of the roster in a really long time, with the exception of Moose. But we just haven't had that strong heel. And say what you will about Bully Ray, and if you want to watch the match or not watch the match, or you care that he's in the company or you don't, or if you're mad that he won the call your shot gauntlet, you know, you say what you say. But the promos, the storytelling that he does is believable, and it's really at a not several notches above the majority of the roster. So they really proved me wrong, and they proved me wrong on this entire card, to be honest, because I was really talking every week about, man, where's the storylines on the show? It's just wrestling. They're just doing these wrestling matches, and then they start piecing the card together, and you're like, man, they actually were kind of telling some stories here that may, you know, some of you may have picked up on them, whatever. I got a cough here. I apologize. But a lot of it really went over my head, and I think it went over a lot of people's heads because, you know, I know who agreed with me on my thoughts, and there was people who didn't. And maybe you were right, you know, but the storytelling was so much better for this that you just really realize if you really like kind of go up and down the card. So Josh Alexander, Bully Ray. If this were a regular wrestling match, this wouldn't be good. So in this case, it was probably a smart thing to do the Full Metal Mayhem, and it's a grudge match too. So usually it's tough to get away with a stipulation match when it's the first time that two people are fighting. Like it's hard to do that. It's hard to get away with it. But if the story builds enough and there's heat, like they've done with this, like this isn't fake heat. What was the fuck? There was a main event. It was it might have been Slammiversary last year, Bound for Glory. I kept saying this is, oh no, I was talking about Eddie Edwards and Josh Alexander, like their main event. To me, like that was like really fake heat. You know, you didn't feel any kind of real anger from Josh towards Eddie. Like they tried to make you feel that way, but it just came off very fake to me. Just like phony wrestling shit. You know what I mean? But this comes off for real. Comes out really real that Josh like really hates this dude. So they've just done they've clearly put a lot into this story well before it even happened. You know, this isn't something they're like figuring it out along the way. But being a Full Metal Mayhem, again, I have good memories of Full Metal Mayhem matches. So I prefer that over, you know, any kind of no holds barred or street fight or old school rules, all that. I can get with this. It's really odd because they're going to kick off the show with it. And I can't remember the last time, if any, that Impact kicked off a pay-per-view with the World Championship. I don't think they ever have. They've done it a couple times to kick off Impact. They haven't done it in a little while, but they've done it a couple times. So this tells me Josh is going to win because they're not going to. Usually, the opening match of the show is not something that it's like something to entertain you. Usually, it's not something that's going to have this like big, huge, controversial finish and where people are going to be talking about it the whole night. That's not really how they lay out these shows. So I thought it was really up in the air because I said, yo, I can see Bully Ray winning this thing because he's got his little heel stable and all that. But at the same time, they've been saying for a while, well, Steve Maclin's going to be that dude to challenge him. And they're not just going to throw that away. So Josh is going to win this thing. It's very rare that a heel wins the first match of the show. It happens, but it's pretty rare. Like you usually want to kind of kick it off with the feel-good moment. So if Josh wins, I don't know what they do with Bully because I think he's still sticking around. I don't think this is like he's going to lose and he's going to bounce, you know? So we got to see if they have an engaging storyline for him after that. With who, I don't know, but he's got the little stable. So you gotta think he's going to be around for a bit. But because of the sole reason, because I've really gone back and forth with this, the sole reason I got Josh Alexander winning this is because they're kicking off the show with it. And then secondary, you know, there's the storyline with Steve Maclin. So I got Josh Alexander winning. Next, let's talk Jordan Grace and Mickie James. This is the one I really want to dive into. And I think people are split on this. You know, some people want Jordan to win. Some people want Mickie to win. Some people think Jordan is going to win. Some think Mickie is going to win. I am like 99% sure Mickie James is winning this thing. I don't see them going off the air with Jordan Grace holding up the title. I just don't. So I have a couple of reasons here. Number one, and this is the one I've already kind of said before, is that it's Mickey James' last match, but I don't feel like it's been pushed that hard. Like when you look at the promotion of the show, I don't think it's like really the news is really out there to the wrestling world that this like beloved legend might be wrestling for the last time. You know what I mean? I feel like it's still within the Impact bubble for the most part. So that just kind of tells me I think Mickey's going to keep going. There's more money in it for Impact to keep going with Mickey than to end her career, you know, and I think she knows that as well. And there's still some stories out there for her. This is another reason. She was saying that she's never beat. No, I'm sorry. Jordan Grace has never beat Deonna Purrazzo. Deonna Purrazzo's beat Mickey every time. I think that's what the story was. So, with that being said, there's a storyline for Deonna to face either of these girls, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But my main reason, and I'm trying to think like Impact here, if there is even a 0.00000 repeating, of course, 1% chance that they can get Mickey James versus Mercedes Moné, FKA Sasha Banks, they're going to put the belt on Mickey. If there's a 0.00000 repeating, of course, 0.1% chance that she's going to be in the Royal Rumble again, they're going to put the belt on her again. But she's already done that. I think because the possibility is very strong that they can bring her in. Will they sign her long term? Absolutely not. But Mickey knows her personally. She has pointed out that Mercedes watches every wrestling show. Like she's a fan. She's not like Mandy Rose, you know what I mean, who may not even know Impact exists. Like Mercedes knows everything. She's familiar with everything. And she wants to go wrestle everywhere. And she wants to have the matches that she didn't get to have inside that WWE bubble. Because like when people say, oh, Charlotte's the best wrestler and Becky, I'm like, who have they wrestled? They've wrestled for the last 10 years the same 3 or 4 girls. As far as the top of the card, they've mixed a few here and there, but it's like, who have they really wrestled? That's why someone like a Deonna Purrazzo, a Tessa Blanchard, if you will, I just take them so much more seriously as like the best because they've branched out and they've just, even if it's the indies, have just faced so many people and the body of work against so many different opponents proves that like they're the best, And I think Mercedes wants that. I think she wants to get out of that WWE bubble. They sold out I think is it Wrestle King? I don't know. I just don't give a shit about New Japan. I don't know if it's Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle these nuts, but I know they sold it out in Japan with only that match announced, the one with Mercedes. So Impact's going to take advantage of this. There's no doubt they have placed a call to her. I'm sure they have. And, years ago when people thought, oh, Chris Jericho's coming, I said, who is Chris Jericho going to work with in Impact? What matches are here for him? I was like, there's Sami Callihan, Pentagon, and because Pentagon was a much bigger deal at the time in Impact than he is at AEW. I said, there's nothing outside of that, And there's not even a lot in the knockouts division for her. But there's Jordan, there's Deonna, there's Mickey. Outside of those 3, I don't think there's anything for her. Doesn't mean she's not going to wrestle some of those girls, but I mean, if you're talking about big money matches or whatever. But Impact can't, because they have the knockouts division, and the knockouts are the knockouts, and they're the best women's division in the world. I can't see her not coming and doing a few matches. And if there's even the slightest chance that they can get her versus Mickey James, because that's the biggest match they can do on paper. She can wrestle Jordan Grace, or she can wrestle Deonna Purrazzo, and that's going to gain interest. But if they can get Mercedes versus Mickey James with her career on the line and the knockouts title on the line, why would they not do that? I wouldn't have her win, but why wouldn't you know what I'm saying? Like they're completely closing the door if Jordan Grace wins. So that's my whole thought on this. And this is probably, top two. Either the men's world title or this is the best stories going on in Impact right now. But I got Mickie James winning. I'm very confident in that. Unless they already know ahead of time, hey, this girl's not gonna come wrestle for us. And she strikes me as someone who she'll want to do the indies and things like that. I think she wants to really go out there, spread her wings. So unless they already know they cannot get their hands on her, then Jordan could win this thing. But I think Mickey's gonna win. I think there's more money in her being the champion for a while before that way the person who beats her not only ends her career but wins the title in the same breath. And that just like elevates that person even more. And it could be Jordan again. Very well could be Jordan. I just don't think this is the moment. And by putting on the girls last, there's a really good chance. I'm not saying I know anything, and maybe it's not a good chance. But if Mickie James wins, because Impact does this kind of thing, there's a good chance if Mercedes is in the States that she could show up and, be that girl to step up and challenge her at the end. It's possible. It's not impossible. And I'm always a realist when it comes to big stars in the wrestling world having anything to do with Impact. I told you all the people, oh, maybe we'll get Bryan Danielson. I was like, no, we won't, But this is one that I think is very, very realistic. And it's realistic she could show up at the end. They like to do that. Someone who's never step foot in the company just wants to wrestle for the title immediately, and they'll just kind of show up at the end of the show. So I think it's really possible, guys. What do we got next? Jonathan Gresham and Eddie Edwards. I think Eddie Edwards is going to win this thing because they're still kind of he's still got the story going with what the hell is his name? PCO. And I mean, if there is a match and storyline that I couldn't give like an abstinent stewardess, I couldn't give a flying fuck about, it's Eddie Edwards and PCO. But it's not over. It's going to continue in one way, shape, or form. So could PCO cost Eddie Edwards the match? Yes. That's probably the more Impact way of doing things. So I'm kind of 50-50 on this, but I am going with Eddie Edwards actually winning it. And match quality, because if you look at this card, there's only 4 matches that have the potential to steal the show. Probably 3, to be honest. But this is one of them. So I think it's definitely going to, I think it's going to be a top 2 match on the show. But I think Eddie's going to pull it off. And this has been a weird story because almost nothing happens on TV with these guys. Like, I know they were in the main event and Jonathan Gresham had a squash match and Eddie hasn't wrestled at all, I don't think. And it feels like in the last couple months, like these guys are kind of absent from television, very small portions of the show. And I was thinking today, because I was watching the episode this morning, some of these storylines and some of these wrestlers could use so much more focus, but I think just the inability to let Josh and Bully Ray breathe at all. Like there's never an episode where that's not like the dominant story. And that's the problem. Like in this whole build, if they found a time, okay, we're going to let this breathe and not take up 25 minutes of the show, we can develop Trey Miguel's new character a little bit more. We can do some kind of important angle with him, but instead everything else has these little tiny segments in the show and they're a little bit rushed, and then Bully Ray takes over the show. So this is one that really got like lost in the shuffle with this card. Like if you were to ask someone, hey, list off the Hard to Kill card for me without looking, I would think they would possibly forget this match. But it's going to be good. Motor City Machine Guns defending. I don't know where I got developing from. Defending against Heath and Rhino, the Major Players, and the Bullet Club. And I never enjoy these 3-4 tag team matches. It is not my gig. Heath and Rhino is not my gig. I think this is the last time we ever even see them in the company. That's just my personal thing. And then the Major Players, who I do like, I mean, they both took one on singles matches L's the last few weeks. So they're not winning this thing. They're, I think, the biggest missed opportunity in the company right now. to have something that's like really entertaining instead of, them being a sideshow. But again, that's another one of those things that I think could have used a little more focus if you let Josh and Bully Ray breathe 1 week, I, I'm a little bit back and forth on this, but I think the Motor City Machine Guns are going to win. It's either going to be them or the Bullet Club. Heath and Rhino, there's like zero money in them winning again. That was just something they promised them in their contracts, I think, there's just, that's why they took the belts off them so quick. Like, okay, you win your title. Cool. Yay. Hurrah. Okay, let's pretend we give a shit about a contractually obligated rematch. They're whatever. And the major players I just don't think win. I've been saying I think Cardona's, well, no shit. If Vince is back, Cardona might not be going there. So, maybe the major players do stick around. Brian Myers, we know, sticking around. I just don't know about Cardona. This whole 4-way shit show is to further the storyline between the Motor City Machine Guns and the Bullet Club. That's all this shit is. It's two things. It's one, let's get as many people on this card as possible. And number two, it's let's further this storyline. So it could end in a way where the Bullet Club could win, but the Motor City Machine Guns kind of steal the victory, pinning Rhino or something like that. Because the only like money in this whole match here is to set up Motor City Machine Guns and the Bullet Club, which, knowing Impact, they'll probably put it on the next episode of Impact instead of building it whatsoever. But I'm fairly certain the Motor City Machine Guns are going to win. Next, Trey Miguel versus Black Taurus. This is another one that has. This could be the best match on the card. The other ones, obviously, the knockouts. I'm not going to put Full Metal Mayhem on there because it's a stipulation match, but the Knockouts Championship match, this was another one because I said there was 4, right? Jonathan Gresham and Eddie Edwards, and then Rich Swann and Steve Macklin. I think those are the ones that have the ability to really steal the show. You could probably take Swann and Macklin off that because I don't think they're going to go that hard to steal the show. It's probably going to be the second match on the card, and it is a stipulation match. It's Falls Count Anywhere, so it's a little bit different. But we'll get to that, obviously. But Trey Miguel, Black Taurus, this is shockingly a pretty decent story. Just the way they did the X Division tournament, and it just seemed like it was just another wrestling match in the finals. Trey Miguel versus Black Taurus. They're gonna have a awesome, swell wrestling match, and then we're gonna forget all about it. And they created a story out of this, and they've allowed Steve to talk a little bit because Black Taurus can't. So, Trey, I wish we could see more of him. But he hasn't had that time on TV to like really develop his character. That's one of the disconnects I think they have with the viewing audience, because I think he has the potential to be one of the better parts of the show, but we just get little bits and pieces of him. But this match should be a top 2 match. Trey's going to win because there's so much more, at least I think he is, but that's who I got winning. There's just still so much you can do with the title with him, and the gimmick and the character and the development. There's just a lot more. And I think he ultimately, wrestles Mike Bailey again. But I do think he's going to win. Black Taurus, I can't see him with the belt, but dude is freaking phenomenal in the ring. So should be pretty good, but it should be Trey. Because they got to get Trey. I've been saying he should have been in the main event picture by now. Now he's a heel, so give him the opportunity to develop himself and maybe get into that main event picture as a heel versus Josh or something like that. One that I'm really looking forward to, Deonna Purrazzo versus Killer Kelly versus Masha Slamovich versus Taylor Wilde. This is a 4-way to determine the number 1 contender for the Impact World Championship or Knockouts World Championship. And I've said this a couple times. This is the freshest match to me, freshest feeling match they put on in a really long time, or that they announced. The logical winner is Deonna. Who do I want to win? I want Killer Kelly to win. But I think, because typically when they do these kind of matches, it's kind of like I said with the tag team 4-way. There's the person they want to win. There's the person who's going to take the pin. And then there's 2 people who are going to create a side storyline. And I think that's what we're going to see here. Kind of like I'm like, well, Rhino's going to get pinned. Motor City Machine Gun. Well, I guess that one's a little bit different because I think the champions are going to win that one. But here, I think Deanna wins because she's logical. Because what is Jordan's never beat her. She's beat Mickey James every time, so that's logical, right? Killer Kelly versus Masha. I think they want to go that direction. I think it's too soon. I think it's going to be too soon for like a year. I don't want that yet. I think it's going to be awesome when it happens. I don't want it yet. And my another one, that's another concern of mine. It's going to be on the next episode of Impact if they get into some kind of squabble here. That's a big concern for me. But Deanna's the only one that really makes sense. I think Taylor Wilde's here to take the pin. And then we're going to get Killer Kelly and Masha branching off into something else. So, but this should be good. Even though it's a 4-person match and not my favorite, I think it's going to be really good. This is one that for the knockouts, I think they're really gonna show out. I think that we're gonna see them do some things we never seen before. But I also think like Deanna's the best wrestler in the world, and I think Masha's right up there too. And Taylor Wilde is very, very capable. She's very good. Killer Kelly's very good, very hot. So I'm gonna go with Deanna with that. The good thing about this match is that any of these people can win, and it kind of makes sense for the whoever wins the Knockouts World Championship match, because Killer Kelly kind of flirts between like the heel. She's a baby face, but it's like she kind of flirts. She's a bit of a tweener. Masha's a heel, so she could wrestle either of them. Deanna, again, already there's a storyline there. Taylor Wilde, like there's nothing there. She's just here to take the pin. I'm sure of it. Like she just won that match with Masha to give her like a little bit of momentum going the pay-per-view. I think she's just going to take the loss ultimately. Joe Hendry versus Moose, two of my faves for something that's not my fave, and that's the Impact Digital Media Championship. This is a hard one to call because Moose is it's kind of a comedy storyline, but Moose makes everything work. There's nothing he can't make work. And it's a weird one because Joe Hendry just won the belt. It means nothing. It's not like a title change hands on a pay-per-view type of belt. It's something you lose on YouTube. In a digital media exclusive. It's something you lose on a taped episode. It's something you lose on the indies maybe. But I just don't see that in this instance, kicking up, being one of the, it's going to be second or third match of the show for sure. Somewhere that between that and Rich Swann and Macklin, like it's going to be, I think those are the two matches that'll follow up the World Championship. I think it's going to be the third one though, because I think they're going to want to follow the World Championship with Swann and Macklin, unless those are two similar gimmick matches in a row. So I don't know. I'm kind of rambling, but it should be one of the early matches. I don't see them doing like a title change, but I don't think Moose should lose either. But I can't see Moose with the Digital Media Championships. It's like joke title walking around. If they just drop the digital media shit, let's make this our television championship. Let's kind of change the name. Like that's a different story. But like Moose with the Digital Media Championship, the one that Chelsea Green wanted to win at one point, Zicky Dice was wrestling for. I just can't see Moose wearing that around. So I think Joe Hendry wins. It's not going to be like the cleanest victory in the world. It's going to, I think it's going to be like a bullshit roll up or something like that. But I'm going to go with Joe Hendry. Rich Swann versus Steve Macklin. This is Falls Count Anywhere. This is one of the stories that kind of went over my head because he got a DQ loss and a count out loss, but they weren't right after each other, so it wasn't obvious where they were going with it. He's clearly the dude they want in the main event scene, and I think he's the dude that can take the title off Josh too. So I think he will beat Rich Swann. I love both these guys, so I'm just really looking forward to this. And Falls Count Anywhere is, it's no rules, but it's not hardcore rules. I mean, it is, but it's not. So I can dig going around the ring and wrestling and trying to pin him in the crowd or pin him backstage or whatever. Like I can dig that. It's it's just basically a no DQ, no count out match, but you can pin or submit the dude wherever. So I think it's going to be a really really good one, and just the card is just good. It just really good. I mean, every match is going to be good. It's hard for me to be like, oh, this one's going to be shit. Like it just the probably the worst match in the card will be Moose and Joe Hendry, and that still might be good. I just think it'll be the worst. Like something's got to be the worst, right? So I got Steve Macklin winning this thing, especially because Rich Swann is directionless. Like they have not known what to do with him since he lost the world title, but they've also teased him wanting to wrestle for the world title. So I can see, even though I think they're trying to prep Steve Macklin for the world title, like one-on-one, I can see a world where there's a 3-way Josh Alexander versus Swan versus Macklin match on Impact Plus or something like that on one of their shows. I can see a world where that exists. And then pre-show we got the Death Dolls versus Giselle and so I'm going to Google here at the same time because I don't remember what the other pre-show match is. I know it's the X Division match, but I don't remember everyone in it. The Death Dolls versus Giselle, Giselle, Tasha Steeles, and Savannah Evans. This is going to be whatever. It's Rosemary versus Savannah Evans on this past episode wasn't very good. I can't imagine. I'm trying to type and talk at the same time. In fact, pre-show hard to kill. Hard. It's hard to imagine this being that good of a match. I don't know. Obviously, I think the world of Giselle Shaw, so I enjoy anytime she's wrestling. And then I think that Death Dolls has a awesome gimmick and a good entrance and all that. But Ty is the wrestler there, so we probably get some good moments between Ty and Giselle Shaw. They did a really weird attack angle on this episode of Impact that I thought was probably the worst part of the show. I thought it was really bad. I appreciated that she wasn't laying knocked out cold for once because that always bothers me. Because there's not a lot of moves that happen in a wrestling match where someone's out cold. Because if there was, matches wouldn't go on for like 20 minutes. But you go backstage, you hit someone with a chair and they never get up again. At least she was kind of sitting there in pain, but like the acting was bad. I don't know where the hell they're going with that. Is it, well, their Ty is going to be wrestling hurt? Like, I don't know how the match benefits from that. She's the best worker in the match. So I don't know. I kind of don't care who wins this. But I think Giselle and Tasha and Savannah are going to win. That's what I think. I think there's a snowball chance in hell that Savannah breaks off from these girls. But I think that's the team that wins. And then the other one is Kushida, Speedball Mike Bailey, Angels, Yuya Uemura, Bhupinder Gujjar, and 73-year-old Mike Jackson. So he's going to come in, he's going to do comedy spots, he's going to walk the ropes. I don't know how this benefits the match. It's a pre-show, so we don't have to take it too seriously. I get him being in a reverse battle royal. I get him wrestling Johnny Swinger. But Mike Bailey, one of the guys who's the future of the company, you get Kushida in, and you got him in a match. Mike Jackson doesn't even have an official photo in the match graphic. Look at the match graphic. It's just like a photo from him in the ring. Like it's a candid photo shot. He's not even looking forward. Excuse me. I'm coughing today. Woo. But you get Kushida in and you're like, hey, we're going to put you in this joke match. Like no one benefits here from Mike Jackson walking the ropes doing the Undertaker thing. And then you got Angels, who's in supposed to be kind of a serious stable. And even though I like the design, I think they're losing momentum like really, really quickly. I think every time they step out there, people have less interest in them. So I hope they come up with something really quick for these guys, because their segment was really bad with Sami Callihan. That's probably tied with Taya for the worst part of the show. That segment seemed like it went on forever. It was painful. And then you got this Yuya Uemura, I don't know if he's part of the company or not. I know he doesn't beat anybody. So this is just, Bhupinder Gujar, they put a lot of stock into him. Seems like the company is really trying to push the dude. I don't think they know what direction they're pushing him in. And I don't mean babyface or heel. I just mean I think they have no clue what to do with the dude, because there's a real challenge of making an Indian-born babyface. Like, no company has had to do that. And I don't know if they're going that direction. But I don't see how Kushida, Mike Bailey, Angels, Yuya, or Bhupinder benefits from Mike Jackson in this match. I don't know how this match makes people, oh yeah, I want to pick this up. Now, maybe Mike Jackson goes in and he's putting on a serious match with these guys. And I'm not saying he's like comedy, but he has comedy spots. If he's just out there wrestling and working with these dudes, then, maybe it works. I just don't think anyone's asking for it. I don't think the Impact fan base has taken to him as some cult hero, like maybe the company thinks they have. So I don't know, but again, it's just a pre-show match, and we got that, and then the knockouts match, and then they put the knockouts titles on the line. That's good. I don't think they need to be on the line every single time they do a pay-per-view, because that's what they do, despite having no opponents for them. So Hard to Kill should be excellent, folks. I would be shocked if this was a bad pay-per-view. Absolutely shocked, because they just put together a really good card. This is just, as I said at the top of the show, this has been my favorite pay-per-view every year. Rebellion is the one that I'm like, this looks like an episode of Impact. And Hard to Kill probably is too. Same color scheme, it's the red. So the first two pay-per-views of the year, that's my main issue, is that they look like an episode of Impact. And I'm always saying, when you're going over the Hard to Kill matches or the Rebellion matches or whatever on an episode, like whatever theme song you're using for the fucking pay-per-view, put that in the back instead of wheeling the night, because then you're just promoting another episode of Impact by doing that. So, for those people, there's a lot of you out there that we want to see a setup and we want to see something special and different for the pay-per-views. I don't think this is the one. I think it's going to look like an episode of Impact. It won't feel like it, thank God. There's going to be a lot more people there. It's going to be a lot louder. And they're going to go balls to walls with these matches. But again, I'd be completely shocked if this was a bad pay-per-view. I am 100% sure that they're going to deliver on this one. But that's going to do it for me, folks. I'm going to wrap this thing up. So thanks for checking me out. And I will be back hopefully tonight, right after the pay-per-view, to talk the pay-per-view. If not, it'll be very early tomorrow. Thanks, folks. Talk to you soon. Peace.